Good evening, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to the Balancing Act with me, Sierra, for our special edition of Self Care for Survivors. Thank you guys for tuning in. Please go ahead and share, tag, invite your friends, your family, and your followers to tune in to our conversation on tonight, as I believe it will be impactful. For those of you who may not know who I am, that might be tuning in for the first time, my name is Sierra Hilaire. I am a wife, a mother of four. I am also a certified self care strategist and the CEO of Divine Potential Services, Inc. And basically, my mission in life is to activate women to be authentic, balanced, and free to relentlessly pursue their purpose through practical strategies, solutions, and support. And so, with all of the many hats that I wear, the roles and responsibilities that I carry, my ultimate vision is to see lives restored, established, strengthened, and thriving. And so it always brings me great joy to just be on and have conversations with other amazing women, experts, leaders, and coaches in the industry to share and just tell their stories of their own self-care and survival through certain challenges and things that ultimately made them become a better person. And so I'm always excited for this opportunity. And so again, thank you all for tuning in with us tonight. Go ahead and share and tag, invite your friends, family, and followers because I believe this is going to be good. And so tonight's topic of discussion is purpose in parenting. Do y'all hear me? Purpose in parenting. Listen, we have a purpose in our role and in our assignment for parenting our children. And I'm so honored and excited to be able to have this conversation with none other than family and legacy coach Chenique Pinder. So at this time, I am going to bring her on the screen. She's going to say hey to y'all, introduce herself, tell you a little bit about who she is, and then we are going to get right into it. So stay to the end because you don't want to miss what we have to say. So welcome, Chenique. Good evening, and thank you for joining me tonight for the Balancing Act as we have our special edition of self-care for survivors.
Good evening. Good evening. Firstly, thank you for having me. I'm excited about this opportunity and what God is going to do. Good evening to everyone that's tuning in and would catch the replay. I am Chenique Pinder. I am a family and legacy coach. I'm an author and a minister of the gospel. My mission is to equip and empower families, to equip and empower women on a foundation of faith, to build thriving communities that influence culture and effect change for the glory of God. And that is done through coaching, mentoring, or just different conversations that are fostered to drive conversations about real life issues that families face. My ultimate mission is to see families made whole. So that requires doing some groundwork. Aside from all of that, I am the proud wife to my husband, Clyde, and together we have six amazing children who I give God glory for.
Amen, amen, amen. So we are going to get right into our conversation because we know these few minutes fly by. So again, we thank you all for tuning in. Go ahead and just share, tag, invite your followers if you're just coming in with us as we talk about purpose in parenting, right? So my first question to you, Chenique, is what is your survivor story as it relates to purpose in parenting?
Oh, so that's loaded, but I'll I'll break it down. So my survival story, I became a mother at a really young age, 18, got married, first time marriage, really, really young. That didn't work out. So that left me a single mother, not only a single mother, but now I had to deal with the behavioral challenges that came from that separation, divorce, and all of that. So for 8 years, from about second grade, um, I, as a single mother, dealt with a son that was behaviorally challenged. And normally in America, we call it at risk. That's just what it is.
Right.
Until I met my husband, Clyde, and he began to take on that responsibility with me. But really going through that was really difficult because as a parent, you always want the best for your children, right? You don't want to think about the worst part of it, your hopes and your dreams, everything that you have for your children is all great. You see
Right.
them a particular way from the day that they're born, and when life happens and those things are not the things that are happening, it takes you through this journey.
Yeah.
And for me, it was very difficult at first, dealing with it on a whole. I was angry, I was bitter.
Yeah.
I, at one point, even felt that I did not love my son. That's what I thought because it was so bad. So the schools kept calling, suspensions. We had to move him from school to school just to try and stabilize him, and nothing seemed to be working.
Right.
And one day I remember praying to God because everything was my son, everything was him, nothing was me. And I'm
Right.
just going to God about him. And I have this relationship with God. I don't know if anyone else has it. Anytime I go to him about anyone, he always shows me Shanique.
Come on
And
now.
at that early point in my relationship with him, I didn't want to hear that. I didn't want to see Shanique. I just wanted to see, I wanted answers for when was this child going to change? When would I have the perfect child that
Okay.
seemingly everyone else around me had except me? That's all I wanted to hear from God. I just wanted the situation to go away. And
Right.
God began to show me, and I didn't want to hear it. The more I didn't want to hear it, the more He started to show me, the places where my own brokenness caused me to parent in an ineffective way. Yes, my son was wrong, but I was not parenting on the level of my parenting being effective,
Right.
right? So I had to come to a face-to-face meeting with Shanique, and as I began to accept that, the Lord started to download divine strategies on how my husband and I was going to deal with our son as we worked personally, me work on self,
Yes.
work on me. So in those moments, I remember because I walked around, I always served in ministry, whatever ministry I was in, but I felt like I didn't have a purpose. And I'm like, God, am I just here to work a 9 to 5? Like everyone, and at that time, like everyone seemed to have been talking about purpose. And I'm like, I don't have a purpose. I must be just here. And I remember in 2017, I was on a fast that January, and that was the first time I was strategic and specific with my fast. So
Okay.
I said, God, at the end of this 1 week fast, I want to show you, I want to know my purpose, why I was created.
Come on
And
now.
he began to take me through the journeys, the years prior with our son. And I'm like, God, I don't want to, because you don't want to relive difficult seasons. And it's like each day he had me relive. He took me all the way back to when my mom died. My mom died of breast cancer. I was 13, she was 32. So he took me back through all the difficulties of my life up to the point with dealing with our son. And I was like, God, why are you taking me through it? He said, because that is your purpose. You
Yes.
are called to families. This is why you went through everything you went through. I had to take you through it so you would have that understanding, and not just have the understanding, but be relatable to families.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So he took me through that. And that's the way our organization, Feet to Faith Family Services, I forgot to mention that I am also the CEO of Feet to Faith Family Services, was birthed out of the pain out of that pain of parenting, what I wanted to get out. I now realize that I couldn't shortchange that process,
Yes.
because it was in that process, my actual purpose in life was embedded in that process. And had I shortchanged that process, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today.
Right. Right. That's good. I often tell you how we both have a similar story, in terms of our eldest, you know, having them very young. I was 15 when I had my daughter, and
Right.
going through and dealing with behavioral challenges, and how God allowed that to be a tool, or a season of our life that really birthed our purpose. And I remember, because see, I'm a little different from you. I remember going through that season of my life. And girl, I thought I was in the worst warfare ever. I used to be rebuking and binding every devil in hell. And you couldn't tell me I was the problem, because I knew this had to be a devil. Girl, like you could not tell me no different. And I remember it had got so bad, and I just went to one of my sisters, and I just broke down, and I was like, I cannot deal with this anymore. I say the devil is ruining my life or whatever. And she just looked at me, and she was like, have you ever thought that it was the devil? Have you ever thought that it could be God trying to speak to you, trying to get your attention about something? And when she said that, it's like the light bulbs went off, and immediately my mindset and my perspective about that challenge shifted. And I was able to now, like you said, begin to see me, because our kids are a direct reflection of who we are. And that's why having or being able, let me say that, being able to see the purpose in our parenting is so important for our own selves, because that's how we will really approach our own self-care, right? Because we understand that whatever we put out, that's what we'll get back.
Exactly.
So that's really good. But thank God for getting us through those seasons.
Listen.
And it's not perfect, it's still not easy, but
Exactly.
thank God for the growth and the
Yes.
maturity, and for Him opening our eyes in that particular season of our life. And so I heard you talk about, God using that to show you yourself, and going through the work, putting strategies in place to really parent differently, right? Because we got to break the cycle. We got to
Yeah.
do things differently. We have to change the narrative of how we were either parented, so we can parent more effectively, like you stated.
Yes.
So, how did you overcome that opposition? I know you started your organization and different things like that, but like, how did you really overcome that opposition once God, I guess, revealed to you that you basically were the problem?
Exactly. Well, it still wasn't an easy journey,
Right.
but the main way, or the first step in me, us overcoming it, particularly me, I had to accept and acknowledge what was happening.
Yeah.
So I had to, because sometimes we can see it, but we're in denial,
Yes.
So God was showing me, and I was in denial. I'm like, no, that's not me. And as he began to, and just as you said, our kids are a direct reflection of us.
Mhm.
So when I started to look at myself, I'm like, okay, yeah, yeah, I can see how my response to him, how my behavior, how all of that is impacting his behavior even more. It's adding to the situation. So for me, I had to do, like I said, that self evaluation,
Yes.
looking at myself first, forgetting about anyone else, forgetting about why we ended up in this situation. I had to stop the blame game. That was the first part of me being free,
Right.
right? I had to admit that everyone else is not the problem.
Yes.
Even if they were, I had to look at the problems and the issues that Shanique had. So
And take
I had to even go back
responsibility.
into my childhood and
Right.
start dealing with different things and just committing, you know what? Because I was parenting him the way I was taught. So the
Right.
excessive shouting, at that point, at some points I wasn't even saved in the beginning. So there'll be cursing, like just things that
Better
were
tell the
toxic
truth.
and unhealthy that
Yeah.
didn't add to that environment for a child like him. So that's the first thing that I had to do. And then I had to strategize, okay, how am I going to overcome these feelings? Because not because I acknowledged and accepted meant his behavior changed. It
Right.
didn't. It didn't change right away. But the consistency of what we began to do at the end of that change came.
Yes.
So for me, I had to begin to care for Shanique because sometimes as mothers, wives, everything else, we just put ourselves to the side
Right.
and we're just focusing on everyone else. That's just our nature.
Yeah.
But I had to get to the point where, okay, Shanique, you have to focus on you. You can't be, you're not any good to your husband, your children, to
Anybody.
your community if
Right.
you're deteriorating. And I think it's just the fact that you do it so much that it became normal,
Right.
but it's actually not normal. It's unhealthy. Some of the patterns that we create in letting ourselves go and not taking care of self. So in that, I had to begin seeing Shanique, taking care of Shanique, becoming a better Shanique, so I
Yeah.
could now be a better mother.
Yeah.
So those are the steps that I took. I basically, it took becoming a better Shanique, and it was not an easy road. It was very very difficult, extremely, because it meant breaking old habits that you knew.
Right.
And that is never easy to do, to break habits that you've been doing, that you thought
That's
was the
right.
right way, that you've been taught. So you're holding on to them. But then you have to come to the realization this is not working. So
Right.
either we're going to continue down this path or we're going to change and use different strategies. It's almost like trial and error,
Right.
because you try a strategy. If it doesn't work, you have to try another strategy based on that child.
Right.
So it took a lot of prayer, and that it was actually because of our son and another family situation that actually led my husband and I to recommit our lives to Christ.
Yeah.
So it was through that. If that didn't happen, I
Right.
probably would have still been in the world, still doing what I want to do. But God used that situation to get us into his presence, because
Amen.
that's the only way purpose would have been found in. So literally, you said it, purpose in parenting. I literally found my purpose in parenting, because
Yes.
that's honestly and truly where I found it.
Yes, I definitely agree. And you made mention of something earlier when you first started out about like just really looking at self. And I feel like that self awareness piece is so important. Understanding our triggers, understanding our pain points, understanding our capacity, just different things, as it relates to our self awareness. So we can, like you said, make the changes and break those habits, break those patterns that we keep going in our life, whether we learned them from our own parenting, somebody else, the way we were parented, whatever the situation may be. But that is so key, because when one thing that I realized too in my season of going through that, it was like God was like, set boundaries, with her. I had to take away certain privileges. I remember I even had to take her out of public school and homeschool her because it had got that bad where
Wow.
we couldn't really trust her to be out in the public or to be from under our supervision. So,
Mhm.
on a practical side, for a parent that may be dealing with what we went through, I would encourage you to set those boundaries, do what you need to do to kind of get that situation under control, involve family, involve community, communicate to your church, whatever support system you have in place, leverage that support system, because I can definitely tell you, you can't do it by yourself. And whatever you need to do in terms of setting curfews, limiting social media usage, um, being mindful of the friends that you allow them to go out with or either to come over your house. Those are just some practical things you can do. But on the flip side of that, that self-awareness is so important, because I remember just going through that season and I dealt with her, but I had to deal more with me. And I realized the more my behavior changed, The more I changed, I literally supernaturally saw a shift in not only her, but my entire environment, everybody in the house, right? So that's what just being in alignment with your purpose is all about as well. So that's a good point because I remember a time when I had, just realized how much of my bad habits, let me say that my daughter had picked up from me. And I remember having her go and tell the younger ones something. And girl, I was laying down. I think I wasn't feeling well or something that day. And all I heard, Chenique, like it was like the Lord just made me aware to this because I guess I wasn't paying attention before. She went in there yelling, Mama said, do this, do that. I sat up out my bed. I was like, oh my God. Immediately, the Holy Spirit said, that's how you sound. All she did was pick it up from you. I was like, okay, yeah, we got to work on that. We got to make some changes. So I am in agreement with everything you said. I'm telling you, picking up these habits and keeping this cycle going and continuing that parenting, we have to change it because that's really what brings the balance, not only to our own lives, but to our families.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so, my last question to you is who inspires you to relentlessly pursue your purpose?
My mom. So, like I said, my mom died when I was 13. And for those 13 years, she was literally my greatest supporter.
Wow.
She believed in education. She believed in me. She pushed me in those 13 years to always be my best self. And that's something that I always remember. And one of the things that I draw strength from and why it's her as well, I remember as she was going through cancer and dealing with the pain and all of that, I never really knew how bad it was because she endured it because she knew she had two children that she didn't want to see the real reality of what
Yeah.
she was dealing with. So even though she was going through, she was pushing through it as best as she can. She was just being a real warrior for that period that God allowed her to go through that. So I draw strength from that, knowing that if my mom can be going through cancer
Come on.
and giving, literally dying, and I not know, and still giving her best, then I have no,
Come on.
there's no excuse that I can make being healthy, thank God, being whole. There is no excuse that I can make to not be my best self. And I would always say in anything that I do that I always want to make my mom proud. Even
Oh,
if she's not here, if people don't know, they would think my mom is alive.
yeah.
But I am so hung up on that everything that I do, I want to do it as if she is still here. And I
Yeah.
want to know that she's looking and smiling from heaven and saying, I am proud of my daughter, even
Yeah.
though she's not here. So I hold dearly to that. I've seen her sacrifices. I've seen so many things in that short 13-year window that I carry with me to this day, and that drives me to be my best self. And I saw my mom conquer many things in those 13 years. So I know personally I don't have an excuse. I saw her life, as far as the way she served God, the way she was a worshiper, the way she prayed, the way she taught
Yeah.
me the word. So I grab a hold of all of that and not only implement it in my family, but carry it forward, to do what it is that God has called me to do. Because if I know if she was here, these are the things she would have been
Yeah.
pushing me to do to be the best that God has called me to be. So it's definitely my mom. Even though she's not here, she still
Yeah.
has a strong effect on my life.
Yes, how important are mothers,
Yeah.
especially healthy mothers, right?
Yeah.
Who can point their children to God and give them guidance and provide them with love and wisdom and support. And it's so funny because you probably have the same spirit as your mom, just like that desire to see your kids and your family win. at the end of the day, you just want to see them win. I remember I had a dream about you months ago, and I actually forgot to tell you about the dream. And in the dream, you were like sitting on a couch and you had all your kids and your hands was just around them and you was hugging them. But in the dream, I saw your face and I just saw love. And so I'm making that point because when you're dealing with issues in your kids and God is really dealing, with it, the reality is that he's really trying to get us to understand his love. You
Yes.
know, love covers a
Yeah.
multitude of sin. Love casts out darkness. Love is the solution to majority of our problems.
Yeah.
And it starts with, like you said, that self-love, self-awareness, knowing who you are, taking care of your own soul so you can take care of their soul. So
Yes,
that's
that's
really,
definitely
yeah,
definitely the truth.
yeah.
Yeah, I love anybody that knows me knows I love my family. I love my children. So that definitely that dream was definitely accurate.
Yeah, yeah, that's powerful. That's so powerful because oftentimes, when we've gone through certain things in our life, it kind of, uh, I guess I would use the word damage, our ability to love effectively. And everything is love. Love is the universal language. God is love. And so apart from love, what do we really have? And so
Nothing. And
I
at first
often,
I was damaged. I couldn't love my son the way that properly
yeah,
through those challenges.
same here.
Because you felt as if to love you, you have to be lining up with what it is I say.
Right.
You have to be doing what I want you to do. And this behavior is not that. So how can I love you? So I
Come on.
had to learn to love him. And through that process with him, he has taught me. I always tell him, you are the child that taught me what it
Yes,
is to really,
to
even
really,
now, what
yes,
it is to really love through every
yes.
season of life,
Girl,
because you
you
can't
better
love
talk.
in the good and then in the bad you don't love. No, your love has to be consistent,
Yeah.
and I thank God that he's taught me that, because that's an area that I struggled in.
Listen, I'm your sister. I am your sister in that area. Do you hear me? But thank God that he first loved us because truly we only learn how to love by receiving the love of God, by learning just how powerful and unconditional and unfailing God's love is for us. And so I don't know about nobody else, but it was the love of God that set me free.
Yes,
Mm,
definitely the same.
yes, yes.
Definitely.
So I know you are also a author. You wrote a book, Parenting Unmasked, and you actually blessed us in our organization. We run a 9-month youth program, and so I actually sent out your books in May to the families. So the parents got a copy of the book. So tell us a little bit about your book, how people can get a copy, connect with you, and whatever else it is that you may want to share or let us know about.
Yes, so my book really details that. So it's Parenting Unmasked, the journey through behavioral challenges, and it details that 8-year experience of dealing with a child with behavioral challenges. So I share the strategies that we used as a family, and it's not a cookie cutter for any family, but
Right.
every family at whatever level can get something out of it that can help. So it is available on my website, which is cheniquepinder.com. Um, like I said, I'm also a family and legacy coach. So I have my coaching program that I just recently launched, and it's for any mother, wife. If you're having challenges in the area of your family, um, I can help coach you through
Yeah.
using divine strategies that I got from the Holy Spirit to get you to a place where your family is healthy and whole if you implement the strategy. So there's work behind it. that each individual have to do. And the legacy part of it, I am also a licensed life insurance agent. So it's that legacy building part, making sure our assets are protected and making sure our children are protected, or our family, that if something were to happen, they're not left scrambling. So I'm you can follow me on Facebook, Chenique Pinder. I'm also on Instagram, or you can also inbox me if you have questions either about coaching or questions about life insurance. You can inbox me and I can guide you on how to schedule an appointment.
Awesome, awesome. And that's my life insurance agent. My family and I have been covered what going on almost 3 years now. So listen, she is one of the best in the industry. You heard her. Reach out if you are in need of life insurance, or you are that mother who was like us, going through a season of wanting to know what your purpose on this earth was, and also dealing with challenges in your parenting. She is the one you need to connect with, okay? So again, I thank you, Chenique, for taking the time out to just pour into the people, to just share your story. Listen, nothing that you went through was in vain, okay? To God
Mhm.
be the glory for you overcoming, for God getting the victory, not only in your life, but in your family's life as well. And so I just bless God for you. And thank you all for tuning in with us on tonight. If you're just tuning in, I am here with Chenique Pinder. She is a family and legacy coach. And our topic of discussion tonight was purpose in parenting. So I encourage you to go back and watch the replay, tag somebody, share it, help us just get it out there so others can get inspired and encouraged through our conversation. And before we go, I also want to invite you to our restoration retreat, Realign, happening on Saturday, June 19th, which just happens to be Juneteenth. For those of you who are not familiar with the significance of Juneteenth, that is when slaves were actually emancipated. And so we are just looking for the presence of God to be so tangible, to change lives, to restore hearts and minds. Chenique is actually one of the speakers. She will be on the panel talking about pandemic proofing your legacy. Listen, it is going to be good, y'all. You can actually register at realign.eventbrite.com, or you can simply DM me. I can give you the instructions on what to do, and we'll go from there. So I thank you all again for tuning in with us tonight. Catch us again on next Friday at 8 p.m. Same place, same time. Have a great night.